Good afternoon, everyone. Just doing a mic check.
I can hear you loud and clear, Nick. We'll see if they can hear us from inside the room as well. And good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Amber.
Councillor Mentes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Here we are. Okay, councillors, I needed to be reminded of who are members of this committee. We actually do have quorum. Sorry about that. Okay, I'll proceed with the script. Good afternoon. My name is Councillor Shelley Carroll, and I'm the chair of the FIFA World Cup 2026 Subcommittee, and we do have quorum. So I'm now calling meeting number 2 to order. Welcome, everyone. I see Councillor Ainsley and Councillor Morley are amongst online participants, and Deputy Mayor Malik is with me in Committee Room 1. Today's meeting is being held by video conference and in person at City Hall in Committee Room 1. This meeting is also being live streamed online at youtube.com/Toronto City Council Live. I'll proceed with our land acknowledgement. Although we may be meeting in different locations today, the committee would like to acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 of the Mississaugas of the Credit. And I would also like to make on my colleagues' behalf our African ancestral acknowledgement here in the city. Though I'm not a person of African descent, I am committed to continually acting in support of and in solidarity with Black communities seeking freedom and reparative justice in light of the history and ongoing legacy of slavery that continues to impact Black communities in Canada. As part of this commitment, I would also like to acknowledge that not all people came to these lands as migrants and settlers. Specifically, I wish to acknowledge those of us who came here involuntarily, particularly those brought to these lands as a result of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. In support of the City of Toronto's ongoing efforts to confront anti-Black racism, I pay tribute to those ancestors of African origin and descent. So, if you are registered to speak at today's meeting, please listen for me to call your name and you'll be connected. I will call speakers in the order they appear on the list. A list of speakers can be viewed online by visiting the FIFA World Cup 2026 Subcommittee page at toronto.ca/council and by clicking the speakers box at the top of the page for today's meeting. Members, the City Clerk has provided all agenda materials on toronto.ca/council and on the Clerk's meeting portal. Clerk's IT staff are available to members if you need help with your devices. And I also want to remind you to please submit and approve your motions, submit to be approved your motions by email. Staff are available at exc@toronto.ca to help with motions. Are there any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? Seeing none, thank you very much. And that means we can proceed to the less scripted part. Do we have, sorry.
We need to know the minutes from our last meeting.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I do not have that before me. Okay. Hang on a sec, maybe I flipped past it. Oh, I did, sorry. This is meeting number 2, so we do have minutes. Sorry about that. Can I get a motion to confirm the minutes from the meeting of July 5th? Deputy Mayor Malik, thank you very much. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you so much. Okay. So we do have registered speakers on this item? Okay, because I don't have the speakers list. I wonder though if we are, oh, here we are, I see. I wonder if we are having if we want to have a presentation from staff first. Are you presenting the report or just available for questions? Okay, then we will proceed with the speaker who is Ghazi Sijan. Are they online or in person? Oh. Okay, well, so what I'm gonna propose then, because we are very quickly into the meeting, is that we proceed with questions of staff, and then when we're finished the round of questions, then what I'll do is go back and ask if the speaker is present, because they don't appear to be with us or online yet. Okay? So that being said, I'm going to keep a list. Are there questions? Everything's loaded into a one-item report here, so I'm assuming, I see Deputy Mayor Morley has questions. Any others who want to join the list at this moment? Deputy Mayor Malik. Councillor Ainsley, Councillor Mantis? Seeing none? Okay, Councillor Morley, why don't you proceed?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a question just with respect to the recommendations in the report before us. How does this align with other host cities in terms of the preparation and accommodation tax, for example, that we're looking at here today?
Thank you. Through the chair, I can take the portion of the question around preparations, and thank you for your question. We are in touch with other colleagues in the other host cities, in particular our colleagues in Vancouver, the other Canadian host city. And I would say that we are in line with preparations with the other host cities. In fact, according to FIFA Canada, there's a few things that we may be ahead on from other host cities. So I think, all host cities are in that phase of plans, moving quickly, evolving, changing. And I would say we're in good shape here in Toronto as far as our preparations are concerned. And I'll hand it to Steve or Lauren to speak to the MAT question.
Thanks, Sharon. Through the chair, we did meet and engage with the City of Vancouver in comparing their experience to ours. We are recommending a temporary 2.5% increase to the municipal accommodation tax, which is consistent with the temporary increase that the City of Vancouver is implementing as well. Theirs is for a different duration of time, however, is consistent with the incremental increase.
That's very helpful. Thank you. Those are my questions, Madam Chair. Thank you. Okay. I have a few others, but I'll take them offline.
Thank you. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Malik.
Thank you very much. And thank you for this very comprehensive report. So my first question is just this report mentions that there has been some found savings in the review of the budget for our hosting of FIFA World Cup, and this has been really important to stay within budget and to find these efficiencies. Can you speak a little bit more to where these savings are coming from?
Sure, through the chair, and thank you for that question. And we continue as a team working both on our own portfolios, but with our partners on the event to review budget. That's an ongoing item that we work through, looking for areas for cost containment. And I would say in the summer, we conducted, as a result of a directive from this subcommittee, we conducted very thorough budget reviews with a few of the city divisions who have budgets related to the event. And we were able to find some savings, as noted in the report, that were specific to, I'd say, making sure that we were sort of consistent across the agencies. We found some duplication in some budgets. We found some areas for cost saving around equipment, as well as some staffing costs, I would say, are kind of the highlights of where we found savings. And we continue to find savings across the event on, now that we're, doing a lot more RFPs and procurement, we're getting more accurate with, estimates are moving into actual quotes. And so that's changing the face of the budget as well. And we're also de-scoping on some items where we feel that, we can pull back on some of the original plans, and some of those things have changed as well. So finding savings in a number of different areas and ways.
And was that kind of just a one-time review, or are you anticipating that there will be more as we continue to progress and get closer to the games?
Yeah, we'll continue to do budget reviews with the groups that we're working with. Obviously, we as a secretariat team are doing that ongoing, but we'll continue to set up budget reviews on a more regular basis with the divisions and other external partners that are on this journey with us at this event, and we'll continue to look for cost-saving measures.
Thank you very much. I know this, I shared this earlier as well, and just want to reiterate that I'm really happy to see all the work that has gone into the community benefits and social procurement efforts, and especially heartened to see the focus on community workforce development when it comes to youth, and to see that program continue to progress in its implementation. And the advocates and folks in the sector have been leading the charge on that. And what has been really great is to see the responsiveness and the stepping up to that effort by employers. And just want to understand a little bit more how we're using some of the success around the engagement with employers to continue to lift up the folks who have been, kind of alongside the city in this program, in order to invite and encourage more employers to be a part of this and to show that recognition for their leadership.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, I would, and it's a great question that we've talked about offline and in another setting, and we will make sure that we identify and provide recognition to those employers and vendors who have stepped up on this program, as you've noted. We agree that this is a great opportunity to highlight that work and highlight, they're jumping on board and being a part of it. So we will continue to do that and look for ways to do that in much more public forums where we can share that good news, and also I would say the efforts that we're making. And as we move through this with more vendors, we will make sure that we're talking about that and talking about our targets and where we are with our program. And a lot of those developments will come out of our work with the Community Benefits Program Advisory Body that is being stood up, that includes people from the sector and leaders and expertise from the sector. We'll make sure that we recognize their efforts in contributing to our plan and our work going forward as well.
Thank you very much. And just my final question, I guess, just builds on that. We have talked about what, and has been laid out in this report, the importance of a strong visitor economy when it comes to hosting the games. And of course, this is very important to me as a local councillor for, our central waterfront and our downtown. And of course, for Exhibition Place and where the games are going to be taking place. And we know that our hotels, our restaurants and retail are champions for the World Cup and some of our best ambassadors. And just wanted to hear a little bit more about how we're engaging them to ensure that we can continue to work together and that their work with the city is strengthened in order to have us maximize the benefit from these games for and with them.
Yeah, through the chair, and thank you for that question, because I think some of the work that we're just now launching into and kicking off really emphasizes this, and that is around our program advisory bodies and the legacy work that we want to create. So first of all, we've had Destination Toronto at the table for a long time, since the bid process, and consider them to be strong allies and partners and really strategic partners with us as we unroll our plans for the tournament and going forward. We've also set up a program advisory body specific to economic development and tourism. And so again, it's a group of experts and leaders in that sector who will help us identify the best ways that we can really bring some lasting benefits to our business community across the city and leverage this event to help improve the economy and economic development from this event.
Okay, thank you. I have myself down for questions, but I want to check first. Councillor Ainsley, Councillor Mantis? None? Okay. I better set the time on myself. So we talked about the efficiency hunting, and since that initial round, we've sort of been taking a break while the affected divisions go away and do their budget for this year. But during that time, there was going to be further conversation with FIFA of a number of the host cities about some of the guidelines in their guidebook. We were discussing. We had sort of, I don't want to say objections in common. We're not fighting, but we had some questions about some at the level of service implied in some of the FIFA book guidelines. Has that conversation continued?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I would say yes, we are in communication with FIFA on a regular basis. Not only our colleagues at the FIFA, at the tournament office in Miami, but there is a FIFA Canada team who have set up an office here in Toronto. And that team is in place to support both Toronto as a host city and Vancouver. So we're lucky to have a group of FIFA team members supporting us right here in Toronto that our team at the Secretariat are engaged with on a daily basis. And so there's constant communication about checking in on requirements. Is this still needed?
Right.
Can this change? Can we push back a little bit here? Can we, as things evolve and change? And quite frankly, I think as FIFA learn about rolling out this tournament in 16 cities, there has been a lot of movement and a lot of back and forth and changes to the requirements. So we'll continue to have that dialogue with them on a regular basis.
Okay, I'm glad to hear there's a Canadian team because, well, in particular, our approach to first responders, all three types, is different than the United States. We can coordinate under an umbrella a little better. And speaking of changes, I think it'd be a good place to get that on the record here because there's lots of chat last week about doing one pitch instead of two at Centennial Park. Can you quickly outline, they're still getting a fair number of capital improvements. This new cricket pitch or soccer pitch is going to be a big deal for them. They're still getting a clubhouse. Are we still doing, when we were doing the two practice pitches, it was going to require us to do some improvements to lighting and some features elsewhere in Centennial Park. Is that still the case?
Yes, thank you for that question, because I do think that needs some clarity. And, the changes to Centennial are really because FIFA did some, deeper review of the tournament schedule and realized that we do not need two training pitches here in Toronto, that the second one would not be utilized. And so thankfully, that allows us to shift our budget for FIFA and reallocate those funds elsewhere. What I'm happy to say is that won't have an impact on the overall master plan for Centennial Park. The items that were still intended for the park as part of that plan will move forward. We will look for other areas to find capital budget to make sure that still happens. Right. But the plans for the park will continue to go ahead. Okay. And I would like kudos for using the word pitch several times, because my Premier League fan husband has pointed out to me that while we call it BMO Field, for Europeans listening, it's a pitch. Got it. I want to turn to the MAT tax. Well, I haven't got much time left. We did the 6% increase a short time, almost 2 years ago, but that increase, we're now just learning its potential. I believe it's over potential for 2024.
Through the speaker, yes. So when we introduced that, we did see an increase in the amount of municipal accommodation tax revenue that we generated. And just looking at the last variance report for the year, we were trending to year end, I believe it was around 16 or 17 million above budget in terms of our expectations for the year.
And I understand recently had a debate in Destination Toronto I understand that's a combination of things. We're still not a target for numbers of nights per room across the city, but that the return to travel has brought in a particular high-end leisure traveler, not quite as much business, but there's a lot of high-end travel coming in, whereas we still have, you know, a number of hotels around the edge of the city tied up in being used by our own shelter services and that sort of thing. So there's still, we don't have the numbers of nights, but we're seeing dollars and cents in the MAT tax, nevertheless.
Yeah, and I believe, you know, to your point, there are some increases that we're seeing as we continue to see recoveries post-pandemic, both on demand and occupancy rates, which are ticking up. And that coupled with the MAT increase that we introduced the prior year is what's driving the additional revenues that we're seeing.
Okay, and if you'll indulge me for one more question, members, I'll ask if you have a second round as well. One other question, because there is this Canadian unit. We're kind of in a challenging situation here in terms of comparing ourselves to some of the other host cities and even the Canadian cities. It's not apples to apples. Some of them have done a generous increase to the MAT tax, but they didn't have one before, or they don't have 13% in taxes that would be comparable to the HST, and so they're able to get that revenue lift, something tied to hotels, but it still doesn't end up with a global tax on a room of 21.5%. That's the challenge here?
Yeah, so there are varying taxes or charges that you would see across various municipalities. And just looking within Canadian municipalities themselves as an example, Calgary, who is lower on the list, doesn't have a provincial sales tax tied to their hotel stay. So while
do you remember that from living there?
So while you may have a municipal accommodation tax rate that the City of Toronto applies that is similar with other municipalities, in many instances, what you would see some of the other charges are less.
Okay. So those are my questions. Are there any other, Councillor Mantis, you had some questions? Go ahead.
Just one question, Madam Chair, echoing on your previous question. Is the MAT tax on Airbnbs, or is it just strictly on hotel rooms?
Through the chair, the municipal accommodation tax would apply both to hotel rooms and short-term stay rentals.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay,
you are welcome. Are there any other second rounds since I went over time? Everyone's okay? Okay. Councillors, I'm going to take the awkward position of speaking first, which is unusual for a chair, but I have a motion I want to move, and I know it's controversial, but it also has several component parts. And so what I'd like to do is move that first so that in terms of discussion, you'll have the full opportunity to be able to speak to that. And this really comes out of the fact that it's a responsibility I feel as a member of Destination Toronto. I'll put it up there. It's quite a long motion. And the first one being, you know, as I've just asked the question about being a 21.5, we'd be the most expensive percentage tax amongst our colleague cities in this endeavor. So I'm moving a change to 8%. I'm also moving a number of things that are non-financial. They are requests and actions we can take that are non-financial, and they are the following. First of all, that and this one comes directly from the hotel sector, is that what they would like to do is to be able to have the permission to differentiate on their hotel receipt folios the FIFA tax separate from the usual 6% MAT. They feel strongly that what that does is make clear that this is a temporary thing having to do with FIFA, which leaves the impression, oh, that'll go away, so that it gives people the comfort that should they come back for business or whatever, they're in a different situation. Also asking so that it would be apples to apples with other cities, that the government of Canada and indeed the province consider making an adjustment to the HST so that we are really in the same boat as others, because we do have a rather high combination HST, and as we know, globally, they'll actually do very well with revenue throughout the months we're collecting this extra tax, to say nothing of what they're going to make in the 6 days in November that she'll live in infamy. Also, that the city reviewed the Destination Toronto funding contribution, and that's the ratio by which we calculate how much stays with the Destination Toronto body so that they can do our tourism marketing and how much comes to the city. The reason I'm asking for this review is that the CFO review, what would it take for them to recover from having the high rate, that they have the ability to have in the range of a couple $1 million extra into their budget in future years, such that they can rebuild conference business. One of the temporary drawbacks of a big event like this is people tend to think, well, I'm not having a conference there in the spring and summer of World Cup. But what often does happen, if you do your marketing right, you get an uplift afterwards, because now it's that wonderful World Cup city that you saw. And so what you hope is that with a little bit of extra marketing dollars and conference expertise being succession planned in, they'd be able to do that. And lastly, there we are. And then other measures to support the tourism industry, such as ones that would have city benefits, including doing some of the streetscape and safety improvements in the downtown core, so that we're leaving a good impression and able to build on the event. So, councillors, I'm moving that first so that you can digest it. Sorry, I didn't turn on my clock. I'll just give myself a couple of minutes more. Because these are all measures that are coming from the hospitality industry and would certainly help them to be good hosts in this event. And I understand that that's challenging. 8.5% does give us $56 million, so it fills a big part of the gap that we have. But for a slight adjustment down, what I'm hoping is that it's made up in being able to generate more business, taking less of a hit in terms of people saying, oh, that's too rich for my blood. So that's my reason for putting it forward. I hope that no matter what your feelings are on capturing the 56 million, we did discuss it recently at the Financial Subcommittee, and former Councillor Soknacki certainly had strong views, but I hope at the very least that the non-monetary requests here, these are all just really good business in terms of getting this thing through. So I hope people will take that into account in terms of when we get to voting on the motion. I see, are those questions of the mover? Okay, then I'll wrap up my comments. Councillor Ainsley and then Councillor Mantis, you had questions?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Councillor Mantis had his hand up before I did.
Oh, that's so nice of you. Councillor Mantis, I'm starting the clock all over again. Councillor Mantis, you wanted to go first?
Yes, Madam. Thank you, Councillor Ainsley. Yes, Madam Chair. Seeing that internationally, the VAT tax is usually between 22 and 24%, would we not be able to say that the MAT could be, instead of bringing it down to 8, we could increase it to 9?
There's a bold approach. Well, my answer to that is this. One of the things that was put before us is that the high water mark that sort of makes people say, gee, I don't want to have the World Cup there is, pardon me, pardon me, the 20% mark, which is the London VAT. The hotel industry sort of looks at that as the high water mark, because that's where you start to see a downturn in could we have a conference there? And that's what really is their focus, is not whether or not we could have another World Cup, but can we build conference business out of this after the fact? Because if you do play the business model right, that can be what happens. An Olympic city afterwards becomes a popular place. Athens became a popular place to go after its Olympics, and you hope that the surcharges are gone. In fact, it didn't make the projections it thought it was going to make, but had some upturn of business. And so this is a challenge of trying to strike that balance. As it is, at 8.5%, it would be 21.5% global taxation and 21 even at 8%. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Councillor Ainsley?
Yep. So on your first recommendation, Madam Chair, about reducing the municipal accommodation tax, I'm a little confused about that as well. So on page 12 of the report, this is a temporary 2.5% increase aligns with similar revenue measures implemented by the City of Vancouver to offset their costs associated with FIFA 2026.
Are we here? Here we are. Yes, this is the challenge that I was asking. This is the challenge that I was asking the CFO about, because from what I understand, because of their different taxation levels in the other pots, so to speak, it doesn't end up at 21.5%. It ends up at 21%.
Sorry, that's not what I asked.
Well, restate your question then, please, because I'm not clear.
So you said it different. Your motion puts us more in line with other cities, but staff in the report are quite clear that the 8.5 puts us in line with Vancouver.
Well, my conversation with Vancouver is that because of the difference in their other rates, that puts them at 21.
Okay, and regardless of that, so we have a substantial financial hole that we're trying to fill, and staff have been quite clear about that in all the reports, but you want to reduce our ability to fill that hole by reducing the percentage. And I don't understand why.
A 0.5 percentage, yes. Well, I'll tell you that part of the reason that I've asked the CFO to also sort of do a review is we're really in early days of collecting 6%. And we have exceeded the projection for how much would come back to the city collecting 6% this year. And so part of the reason I'm doing this and then saying at the end that which is clause number, that the status update come to us after we have the actuals of 2025, is that we have exceeded projections thus far. Hopefully, thanks to Ms. Swift, we'll do even better. In that case, the differential might be made up if we can continue to achieve that business target into 2025, then the differential between 8 and 8.5 might be made up. We would certainly know that by the end of the year. If it's not made up, the other thing that the other potential it gives you by reviewing it when we have the actuals of 2024 is to look at, okay, whatever rate council has adopted to start on June 21st, 2025, maybe that, doesn't need to be adjusted upwards in the months leading up to FIFA. We would have the full information then and the actual dollars achieved and could update the projections. But I'm not shying away from this. In real dollars, 8.5 is projected to earn 56.6, and you're right, 8 would earn about $11 million fewer than that. The question is, does that differential generate more business as a result of a more attractive rate?
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to ask for it to be separated out because I can't support it. I don't think it makes us look like sound financial managers trying to reducing the rate, hoping that we might pick it up along the way. I'd rather have a surplus at the end than trying to figure out other ways to clean up a deficit. So I'd ask for it to be separated out. Thank you.
Okay, clerks are already preparing that. Okay, thanks. Okay, are there, seeing no other questions? Why is that not resetting? There we go. Are there any other global comments to the report? Deputy Mayor Malik.
I'll be brief just to express my appreciation for the work of staff to bring forward this report. As I mentioned before, it's comprehensive and touches on some of the key priorities that we have raised when it comes to moving forward in hosting an excellent FIFA World Cup, doing it within budget, and making sure that in every corner of the city, and especially for the long term, the benefits of our investments and our efforts are being felt in communities, especially in parts of our city that should be represented at tables like this, to provide more opportunities for young people and for the future, and of course for us to be able to strengthen our tools and the capacity that we have at the city when it comes to being able to host these events well, and to be able to set a good example for what that looks like. There has been a tremendous amount of work that has happened over since the start of this subcommittee, and I also want to extend my appreciation to your leadership, Councillor Carroll, and also Deputy Mayor McKelvey and Deputy Mayor Cole as well for the FIFA Forever and the other committees that have been coming together. And finally, just for everyone who has been part of the process that is bringing together our community advisory committees, to our community chairs and our City of Toronto chairs as well, the discussions and the commitments that are being raised at those tables, again, continues to set us up for success. We'll continue to look at our preparations with the greatest amount of transparency and accountability and commitment to the benefit of our city and everyone who calls it home, as well as being prepared to host and welcome people from every corner of the globe. And I'm really looking forward to that. And in my community, I know that continues to be a shared part of our commitment and our interest in all of the decisions that we are making around planning, around traffic management, around economic impact, and around enjoyment and our legacy as we move forward. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments? Seeing none, okay. So, councillors, we'll move to the motion, and it's separated out. Councillor Ainsley, did you want to just separate out one? Could the other parts be voted on together?
Yep, I just want number one separated out. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Display the part one that's being, do you want to record it vote?
No.
Okay, so just to show display part one of your motion.
Yeah. Okay, so part one of the motion, which is that City Council approve a temporary increase of the municipal accommodation tax from 6% to 8.5. So part one is just delete 8.5 and replace it with 8, and that's being voted on independently. I need to see the screen.
Have it recorded, please.
Oh, Councillor Ainsley wants to record it? Okay.
All right, did you want to do the recorded vote or do you want me to?
Yeah, you can call it out, yeah. I'm gonna have Catherine call it out for us.
Okay. All those in favor of part one of motion one by Councillor Carroll, please raise your hand. Councillor Carroll? All those opposed? Councillor Ainsley, Councillor Morley, Deputy Mayor Malik, that loses.
Yeah, I don't think, okay, and part 2, which is...
Sorry, Madam Chair, just on point of order, I didn't hear Councillor Mancis's name called.
Well, Councillor Mantis isn't technically, as much as we appreciate your passion to vote, Councillor Mantis isn't technically a member of the committee.
Okay, thank you. I know the composition of the committee has been changing, so I didn't know if he'd been appointed. Thank you. Sorry
Not to this committee, but he is still a champion, yes. Okay, or is he a champion or a person with a fever? I can't remember. Okay, part 2, which is items 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of the motion can all be voted on together. Did you need that recorded, Councillor Ainsley?
Nope.
I think not, yeah. All in favor? I need to see the screen. There we go. And that passes unanimously. And finally, item is amended. Okay, all in favor, again carried unanimously. Councillor Mantis, because you, see now you pointed him out and he left the meeting before we adjourned. Okay, councillors, thank you so much. All in favor of my favorite motion to adjourn? That is carried. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Morley.
Thanks, everybody.